Bring it out. First we go. Cut 'em up, cut 'em up, cut 'em up. There we go. Build 'em up, build 'em up. Yeah, there we go. Break 'em down, break 'em down, break 'em down. There we go. Bring it out, bring it out, bring it out, bring it out. Cut 'em up, cut 'em up, cut 'em up. There we go.
Shalom Israel, Most High in Christ bless. We're out here in Shepherd's Bush to deal with another Cuts through the Streets pertaining to Valentine's Day. So we came out here to see the mindset of the people and what are their thoughts on this festival that a lot of people do celebrate of Valentine's Day.
So yeah, as the soldier was saying, it's something that a lot of people do celebrate. As with the other holidays, it's sort of something that you get instilled in you from a very young age. So saying that, do the people actually know why it's been instilled in them from such a young age?
Yes, and also we're going to try and delve into the scriptures to try and show them, what does the Most High God say about Valentine's Day? Is it something that is instituted by the Most High, or is it something that is instituted by man? It's important that we show them the Bible, show them the scriptures, where and if Valentine's Day is actually in the Bible or not. And if it's not in the Bible, what holidays are we meant to be celebrating?
So Israel, stay tuned. That's Cuts from the Streets.
All right, shalom, shalom, Israel. We're out here in Shepherd's Bush, and I'm with
Denzel.
Okay, so the topic of discussion is Valentine's Day. We're trying to find out from Denzel what he knows about Valentine's Day in terms of the origin. So Denzel, what do you know about, tell me about Valentine's Day. Start with that. What do you know about Valentine's Day in terms of your experiences with it so far?
So basically for me, like Valentine's Day is going out with your girl and having some good time. That's all for me. I don't know any much more information about that. Okay. Just going out with your girl and having some good time. That's the only thing I know about Valentine's.
Okay, all righty then. All right, so it's going out with girls, having a good time. So in terms of going out with the girls, having a good time, what do? Like you buy them chocolates, some flowers, and then eventually, you hope to get a box?
Yeah, normally like a gift, maybe a box of chocolates and a rose, or some stuff like that, yeah. Normally a gift for a person you care about. Normally like a girl gives you a gift and you give a gift as well, Okay. It's about like a two-way thing for me.
How you doing, people? This is Duel. We're out here in Shepherd's Bush and I'm with Jay. So, Jay, like we mentioned, we're out here talking about Valentine's Day. Yeah. So, is it something that you celebrate?
Not at all,
You don't? Okay, why is it? Why is it that you don't celebrate?
I've kind of forgotten that day from my calendar. That day, Halloween, all them pagan days, they're gone.
Okay.
So I don't celebrate them holidays there.
Okay, fair enough. And was it something that you used to do, and when you found out it was pagan, you're like, this can't run?
Exactly. You can't run. From when I know, then I can't run no more. But younger, obviously, I did do the little
the Valentine. All right, so before we get into why you found out it was pagan, back then when you were doing it, why were you doing it?
I don't even know, man. Everyone else is doing it, so you're just doing it.
And we're here today with
Nadreen.
So we're going to ask a few questions about Valentine's Day. So Nadreen, do you celebrate Valentine's Day?
I do not.
You do not. But what did you say earlier about Valentine's? What did you do last year?
I celebrated it last year because I went to Rome.
Because you went to Rome.
Oh, yeah.
She went to Rome.
It was a surprise though.
She went to Rome and celebrated Valentine's Day. So what do you know? Do you know anything about the history of Valentine's Day?
Well, my grandfather always told me it's a day for even though I don't I do have a lot of gay friends, hey, gay friends. But no, so I'm Jamaican, and you get told from young that Valentine's Day is about this Saint Valentine who was apparently gay. So yeah, it's never been really my thing to condone.
And right now I'm with
King,
right. So King, of course we know next week is Valentine's Day, as they say. Do you celebrate Valentine's Day at all?
Like I said off camera, I do once I have a girl, but generally it's not really one of them things, to be honest.
Right. So if you have a partner at the time of when,
Yeah.
right, whenever it comes about, then you would do it, right? Why do you think you do celebrate Valentine's Day?
It's one of them holidays, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's it, really.
Just celebrate it because it's one of them holidays. So being just like sort of one of those holidays, you know, Valentine's Day is sort of something that we've grown up doing a lot. Would you say that's something, you know, that you've seen or?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, and it's funny you mentioned you only really do the Valentine's Day thing when you have a partner, right? Do you think a lot of the pressure is coming from the sisters to do the Valentine's Day thing, or?
First say, yeah, but it's not really their fault because I think this is the only time that they can really put us on pressure, like we do that to them, like in society generally, for how their beauty is and all them kind of things. So I think it's only right. The roles are reversed, you know.
Yeah, so Valentine's Day, everyone tends to celebrate it when, was it, February the 14th, which is coming out next week. And I want to find out something about it from you. Is it something that you do?
No.
No? Why is that? Why is that?
It's a personal reason. I just don't believe it. I don't believe in it. I don't subscribe to it. I don't energize it like that. It's something that many people observe. I just don't feel the need to engage.
Yeah, fair enough. And is it something that you've done before and then because of doing it, you've realized, listen, this ain't right? Or is it something that you've always said, this shouldn't be something I have to do at all?
Fortunately enough, I've never felt pressured. I've never been in a social peer group that I therefore felt pressured to engage in it. So I've kind of been liberated from that somewhat. I haven't, you know, I've had time to make up my own mind about it.
That's good. Because like we said, Kyle, the reason we're out here is to show everyone the true meaning of Valentine's Day, yeah? So, do you know any history about it by any chance? Any history about Valentine's Day?
Apart from Cupid and a bow, you know, that's the only link. And even then, I don't see the logic in the link, so.
What do you make of Valentine's Day in terms of its history and the customs?
Fine. I'm going to answer you 100% authentically. Okay. It's sometimes that when someone asks you a question, and it's not a trick question, but you kind of then can work out the answer, like what weighs more, a ton of feathers or a ton of bricks? But really they're the same because it's a ton. Right. So when you ask me Valentine's Day, the fact that it's so close to the date, what that tells me is the popular regular answer is, oh, love, hearts, chocolates, da. And then the other answer, which is maybe where you're going with it, and this is totally genuine, is actually either Valentine's Day is a completely artificial construct, or it's a pagan thing, or it's purely a marketing thing.
You smart. You very smart.
Thing. So to answer your question, I should say, genuinely, I don't know the history of it. All I know is that obviously it's on February the 14th. Typically it's about love, hearts, chocolates, flowers, all of that stuff. I'm slightly different to people, and then I'll listen to you, in that I personally am not a big believer in it. And I'll tell you why. I just have this personal... what's the word I'm looking for? I just have this personal philosophy that life is short. It happens so fast. Don't wait for one special day to say to the person that you care about, I care about you. And secondarily, it's so easy to do that if I was someone who got stuff on Valentine's Day, I'd be like, yeah, okay, but even a dead person knows it's Valentine's Day. I'm more interested in what you do on September the 9th or October the 4th. Or, you know what I'm saying? Random days when there's nothing cueing you to, then I take it, exactly. So that's my take on Valentine's Day. Good for whoever wants to do it. I'm sure that somebody who gets something on Valentine's Day would rather get something than nothing all year. So each to their own. But for me personally, if I was going to give anything, I'd actually make a point of not doing it on Valentine's Day, just so that it means more.
So the sisters, they're putting on the pressure for the Valentine's Day. Because what usually comes along with Valentine's Day? You might have, like, what, for example?
Well, a gift to them or what? Whatever. Normal things like chocolate, flowers, them kind of thing. And then, them kind of things, Right.
Yeah, okay, we get what you're saying. The viewers, they see you, they see. But so I guess a question would be like, with the chocolate and the flowers and all of these different things, like, why do we associate it with, like, February the 14th? Where did this whole holiday or this whole practice? Like, where did it come from, kind of thing?
I don't know specifically the origin, but I have a feeling that it's similar to Halloween, so probably some pagan history thing going in, but I don't know precisely, man.
I mean, with that, you're on point. With a lot of these different holidays, like you mentioned, Halloween, Christmas, also Mother's Day, all these different things, a lot of the time they do origin from some kind of pagan origin, right?
Claire, what do you know about Valentine's Day, and in terms of the activities that goes around Valentine's Day, the customs of Valentine's Day, the history, and the origins of Valentine's Day?
Okay, I believe over 1,000 years ago, this started with the Emperor Augustus, I believe, where he ordered that the men of his time stop getting married because he needed them to focus on the war, and getting married and having families meant spending more. And so he said it was banned. It was actually a crime to get married. So there was a law. And at the time, Saint Valentine was a priest, so he was Father Valentine at the time. Behind the emperor, he was going secretly to marry these lovers. And when the state found out, or the kingdom, he was put to death. But people honored him because of his legacy, and his death day was the day he died, was February 14th, and that's how, Valentine came about. It's in honor of love, because he was willing to sacrifice himself for love. He died believing in love, marrying people, and the legacy of marriage. So yeah, that's how Valentine came about.
That's something you learned from your grandfather, you said? My granddad, yeah. Your granddad?
His birthday on Valentine's Day.
Oh. So you said you don't really celebrate it, but you did last year because somebody took you to Rome. Yes. But you knew prior that it's something that is not something that all as a people should celebrate from your grandfather.
Yeah. It wasn't like, I suggested or say, babe, I wanted to celebrate Valentine's Day. It was nothing like that. I think it was just a gesture, and it turned out to be on Valentine's Day.
Okay. And what kind of practices or what things was done in practice? What do people do, or what did you do last year in practice of Valentine's Day?
The only thing I could say I'd done was in the spirit of Valentine's Day, be all coupley for the day. But apart from that, I feel like it's just a money-making day. It's like Christmas, really and truly.
So you don't do Christmas either?
I don't do Christmas either, but I eat the food.
Wait, she eats the food.
The gifts.
And then, when did you realize it was pagan? Like, how did you realize it? What made you think this ain't?
It just didn't become that important, you know what I mean? And then eventually, obviously, I've done my research, and then I realized it's not something that really and truly the origins of it. It's not for me, innit? So that's just it.
All right, fair enough. So, in that case, do you know anything about the origins? Because that's why we're out here.
Basically, it's all that Greek, something to do with the Greek history, Cupid's arrow, all of that kind of stuff. I'm not into all of that, so.
No, that's good. That's good, because we actually got some history for the actual true reason why Valentine's Day is out here, yeah?
So you give something and then you get something back in return. How about the actual festival around it, the actual ceremony, if you want to call it, or the holiday, if you want to call it that? What do you know about anything around that? I'm pretty sure you say you didn't know anything at all about it to start with.
Yeah, I just know it's like Valentine's Day, you hang out with your girl. That's the only thing I know. Okay. Yeah. Maybe you can elaborate more for me, I'm not sure.
So now that's why we are here. So we are here to basically give you what it is we know in terms of what Valentine's Day is. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to try and use my own words, right? But I'm going to give you like a little preamble on what it is I'm going to talk about in terms of Valentine's Day origin. So Valentine's Day is basically like a pagan festival. Have you ever heard of Cupid, Aphrodite?
I've heard of pagans, but I don't know about, yeah.
So paganism itself, is it something that's good or bad? What do you say?
From the history, I think it's something bad compared to like Christianity and other like reliefs and beliefs, like stuff like that. I think it's something bad.
So you would say that it's something that is unholy, ungodly, right?
Unholy, ungodly, because they sacrifice animals and all of that stuff. Yeah, they do.
With that being said, is that something that you think that people should start celebrating still?
How can you celebrate something that you don't know?
That's the thing, and that's what people do. Because, like I've asked you, do you know anything about Valentine's Day? You said you don't know too much. It's about Cupid, but that's the same for loads of people. Most people don't know that this history is actually there, documented about Valentine's Day. But what happens? It's been celebrated. Why? Because it's been covered up about what it is. They make it seem very lovey-dovey, things like that, and then you get entangled with it, like you mentioned, peer groups, social groups, things like that. All play a part, and then start messing up with your mind, and then you start thinking, oh, I have to celebrate these things, but you don't really know where it comes from. Do you understand?
Yeah, there's a general pressure placed on the public through many mediums, such as advertisement, media marketing. Also, it taps into the desires of people. It taps into the lusts of people, and these are very much things that collectively we've struggled over time to bring presence and awareness to, yeah? And therefore we allow our conditionings and desires to control our movements, our creation, our actions, our thoughts, our feelings. And that is what's played upon. That lack of awareness within oneself of their faculties is exploited in a way. And we have the situation where people are buying into something and investing in something, energizing something that they really know nothing about, but sounds good. Yeah, exactly. You know, it might look good.
Might feel good and things like that. And I like what you mentioned about things to do with lust, because that's what Valentine's Day preys upon. It preys upon people's lust. People love to be loved. So what they do, they create this thing where now you have situations where you have boyfriend and girlfriend, they go out on this day, and if you don't know, 9 months from now, loads of babies are born. Why do you think? What happens in Valentine's Day? These things happen. And then you have people that don't really like each other. And then this is a cycle that keeps going on, and it keeps going on. Now you have baby mamas, baby fathers.
Now, Valentine's Day in particular, right? In the sort of general world, they associate it with Saint Valentine or Saint Valentino, however they say it. But its deep origins are actually pagan, as you mentioned. Now, there is a Roman festival that was celebrated from the 13th of February to the 15th of February. So that's Valentine's sort of time period. It was called Lupercalia. Lupercalia. Have you ever heard of that before?
Nah, man.
Right. So Lupercalia was a festival in the honor of the Roman god Thanos. Now, Thanos was a god, right? Thanos was a god, a Roman god, a pagan god that was a god of the shepherds, and he sort of resembled, I don't know if you've seen Narnia. You know, the sort of goat man, half goat. That's what he resembled. But along with him, they would also represent him basically with his privates out at the same time. So this is what this celebration was in honor of. Now, as part of this celebration, Lupercalia, what they would do is they would sacrifice a goat in honor of this goat-related god. Then what they would do is they would take the skins of that sort of animal, that goat that they've just killed, they'd form it into a whip, and they would basically beat the young women of the city. Why do you think they would do that?
No clue, man.
Right. So the idea behind it was that in the whipping of the women with the goats, right, the idea was that the women would become fertile. So it was very much a festival that revolved around different sexual acts and all these different like sexual things going on. And that's what it was very much about. What then happened in the 5th century is that Pope, I think it was Galius, he tried to Christianize it and tried to incorporate it into the Roman Catholic Church. And he associated it with one of the so-called saints, who was Saint Valentine. So that's why you have so many people celebrating it today, because it's become a sort of accepted or Christianized thing, when really the origins is to do with sex and all these different deviant kind of things. So what do you think about that?
Now you've enlightened me, brother. Nah, it's a little bit mad.
Valentine's Day. What do you know about the pagan? Would you say that pretty much the history you just given me is a paganistic history at all, in your opinion?
It's got nothing to do with paganism. Like, remember, Father Valentine was Catholic, and Catholicism is steeped in paganism because it's Christianity that's adopted pagan ways. So, in a way...
Sorry. Are you saying he's pagan or not pagan? I just want to get that clear.
Well, in other words, it's pagan. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, okay. Very good, very good. I'm glad that we got there. So Valentine's Day itself is pagan. The origins of it is pagan.
Pagan, yeah. The origins are pagan because it's morphed from Catholicism, and Catholicism is steeped in paganism. So, yeah.
So now, can I have the book, please? We're gonna get the true understanding behind it. I don't want to speak my own words. I want to get the actual true researchers, the ones that have actually scholars that have done the research on the origins of Valentine's Day to give us an understanding of the true origins of that. Okay. All right. We're gonna start from the beginning. Yes. You're not rushing, are you, to go anywhere? Very good. Excellent.
So this is the book Pagan Origin of Christian Holidays. All right.
Okay.
It is likely that Valentine's Day, a day that is associated with love and romance, was birthed out of the ancient Roman feast Lupercalia, February 13 to 15.
Right. So now the feast Lupercalia is what we're going to read about, which lasted for like 3 days. But nowadays is what? Only one day, 14th of February. Right. So originally started, I say, 3-day feasts. All right. We're going to go into that now.
Lupercalia was celebrated annually in honor of Lupercus, Pan, and Juno Febrata.
What were you reading from?
The Pagan Origins of Christian Holidays by Elisha J. Israel.
Okay. So this is a book of Christian holidays, but have pagan origins. All right. And in this book, it talks about Christmas is in here also. New Year's is in here also. Yeah. You do New Year's?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I do. It's like, to be honest, how can you not? You can say like you don't do these things because I don't specifically go and say, okay, I want to celebrate this day. But you do initially go and celebrate it because, your family and friends are all, when it comes to New Year's, all enjoying it and just kind of celebrating the day. I think it's how you interpret it as a whole. You can take it as, oh yeah, I'm going to be proper consumed by this holiday and I've got to buy this and that. But it's like, no, like it's how you interpret it. Like Christmas, people say Christmas you have to buy gifts. No, I think it's about who you spend it with, showing your love to your loved ones. And New Year's, I feel like it's just celebrating, finishing 1 year and starting a new. So.
Sounds like most of these days are about love to you, about love.
Yeah, love, happiness, literally.
And do you consider yourself a Christian?
I was brought up as a Christian, but I don't consider myself as religious. I believe there's a God.
Believe there's a God. Okay, cool. Let's just read a bit of this Valentine's Day that you did last year.
Okay.
Valentine's Day, a day that is associated with love and romance, was birthed out of the ancient Roman feast Lupercalia.
That's a coincidence. Because you went and celebrated Valentine's Day last year in Rome. Finding out the actual origins of it started in Rome. Read that a bit again.
Valentine's Day, a day that is associated with love and romance.
So it is associated with love and romance, but we're about to find out that it has nothing to do with love or romance. But this
was birthed out of the ancient Roman feast Lupercalia.
So it came from this ancient Roman feast called Lupercalia. Okay, read on.
February 13 to 15.
So now it's giving the time period of how this feast was. It was during February the 13th all the way to the 15th.
But they've just selected the
that 14th, that middle day, and keep that day as St. Valentine's. Read on.
Lupercalia was celebrated annually in honor of Lupercus.
So this feast that they did in Rome was in honor of this god called Lupercus. And he also goes by the name, what is the next name?
Pan and Juno.
So it also goes by the name as Pan. Right. So these are a pagan god, but different nationalities gave them different names. So the Greeks called him Pan, Rome called it Lupicus. Okay, and that's just to give you a kind of image of what God they were talking about here. I don't know if it's in here. Yeah, turn the page, it has an image of it. Basically, it's like the half, no, it doesn't. That's just the whipping. Or, okay. It's basically, have you seen Percy Jackson, that movie, or Narnia?
Yeah, I've seen
Narnia, the half, not the half horse, the half goat, Mr. Tumnus. Yeah, so you,
supposed to be the god, the god of love.
that's Pan.
We're reading about the festival Lupercalia. Remember? Read on.
Milk-soaked wool was then wiped on the young boys, at which time they began to laugh. Subsequently, the goats were cut into thongs called februria, and the boys ran throughout the city scantily covered with goats' hides, striking women with the thongs.
So now, you can imagine this, how bloody this is. So now they killed an animal, goats and dogs. They've strung up the flesh together to make like a thong for whipping women to try and what? We're going to find out about it. To try and induce fertility into women. Right? So we're reading about these pagan origins of...
This is a cake to start with. And despite our personal beliefs, I don't know what your belief is, but I'm a Christian. Okay. And yeah, exactly. And today, like, things like this are being looked at as barbaric and, like, you know, old. It's not something that's being practiced today, but at the time I think this was what they believed in. I think the human nature, we're always looking for something otherworldly, something higher than us, and that was what this was steeped in. But today we have Christianity, we're civil, and these are primitive ways. So this is not what we believe in today.
Can I carry on reading so you can get, again, we're reading about the true origins of something. Just because they've changed, you know, some of the aspects of that particular feast that we're talking about, Valentine's Day, doesn't mean that, you know, they've completely disassociated themselves with that origin. You see what I'm saying? So yes, there is a, if you like, a transition from how they did things back then to how they do things back today, pretty much. We're going to carry on reading if you don't mind, right? Okay, all right.
The Greek god Pan himself runs naked. The primitive Arcadians who worship Pan did not wear clothes.
So now, we're reading more about it. So now, you think about today, on Valentine's Day, women, you know, and men are obviously like trying to get to know each other. They're trying to be a little bit, flowers, chocolates, sexually dressed, sexually attractive to each other.
Personally, I don't believe in Valentine. I believe, like, if you love someone every day, you should love them. There's no special day. You can, like, your anniversary with your partner is the day you should be celebrating your love, not a set date for marketing to make money. It's just like, you know, Easter, holidays, Christmas. It's just a marketing strategy to, you know, make sales and, you know, reduce prices for companies to, you know, create profit margins. Really, that's what I believe. But with this Valentine thing, I think, you know, it's steeped in history, and it's a very complicated, dark past, and everyone's just blind, but people are sheep, and we just move with the crowd. So what we see on TV, the adverts, the radio, you know, oh, Valentine, buy this for that one, show people you love them. We should love people every day. So
right, I'm glad that you said that. You know, and would you care for us to read more about it and just move on to something else, or would you say you pretty much understand that it's pagan?
I understand that it's pagan. I totally understand that. I don't practice Valentine, so yeah, that's my take on it.
Like many secular festivals, Lupercalia was given a Christian cloak.
So now, like all these festivals that we celebrate, they have what you call a Christian cloak. So meaning what they've done is they've used certain part of the Bible to make it seem like the Bible condoned it. Do you understand? But the Bible has never condoned it. Do you understand? But that's what most of these holidays are. Like Christmas, it says Christ was born on Christmas Day. The Bible doesn't say that. It said it was born in springtime. Do you understand? It's all of those things.
In 496 AD, Pope Gelasius I replaced the licentious pagan Lupercalia with a festival in honor of the martyr Valentine.
So that's how we came to Valentine's today. So that was just obviously the brief overview of where Valentine's came on from today. And one thing I wanted to show you, because we actually wanted to show you that in the Bible it says the same thing, that we're not supposed to be celebrating Valentine's Day, and that we are in this day and age going to be tricked to do it. Yeah. So go to Wisdom of Solomon, 14, in the process of time, 14 and 16, I believe. Yeah. So let's get that, because what's happened is, like we've just mentioned, from back then all the way to now, process of time has come where things have seemed normal now. But when you read from the history, because all of this was just a collated document from different sources that Elijah J. Israel got it from. And this is what the Bible says about it.
This is the book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14 and verse 16. Thus, in process of time, an ungodly custom grown strong.
An ungodly custom
grown strong.
Grown strong, meaning it got backing behind it. It got people happy to do this stuff, yeah?
An ungodly custom grown strong was kept as a law, and graven images were worshipped by the commandment of kings.
So that's how it happened. That's what we read. That the king made all of this happen, the noblemen and all those things, and now we are celebrating these things. And now that's where we are.
As you mentioned, or as you sort of alluded to, right, along with the Valentine's Day, there's the cakes and the chocolate and the going out and all of this different stuff, right? As on the side of the men, on the men's side, let's be honest, right? Do the men really care about that stuff?
No, not really.
What do they care about?
You know, getting personal.
Getting personal, exactly. So after you wine her, dine her, put in designer, we know what comes after that, right? Do you see what I'm saying? So that's what the men really care about. It's that same spirit that was all the way back in ancient Rome. It's all about the sexual acts. That's what it's about. Do you believe in the Bible at all?
I do, man. I do, yeah.
What do you think the Bible would say about Valentine's Day?
I don't think the Bible would be supportive of it at all. Right.
Have you ever read about Valentine's Day in the Bible? Because it's not in there. Because as we just revealed, the origins are pagan. So,
you know what I'm saying? But this is where it's coming from, and it's all pagan. Okay, read on. What's
A lot of things we celebrate nowadays are from pagans.
right? That's what we was mentioning. The Christmas that you do, pagan. That's in worship of a god named Nimrod. Nimrod. Okay. Birthdays is also pagan. That's actually the highest day for Satan worship.
Are you guys Muslim?
No. You're gonna find out what we are in a second.
Something like Israelites.
Oh, something like Israel. No, it's not something like Israelites. You are an Israelite. Did you know that?
Oh, am I?
Yeah, from the church. But Israelites, that's a nationality. It's not a religion. An Israelite is a nationality. It's not a religion.
Okay. Well, I didn't know that.
Now you know.
So now, what do you think God himself, says about these particular feasts? Do you think God aligns himself? Because you mentioned the Catholic and things like that. You seem to think that there's a holy side to Valentine's Day because it encourages men and women, especially when they're married. I think pretty much what you said, to get together, even though you don't really believe in it.
The legacy of Saint Valentine was the institution of marriage. He was marrying lovers that were outlawed to get married in his time. So God supports marriage, and this is what Saint Valentine died for. So in that respect,
you said Saint Valentine died for. Is Saint Valentine one that is?
He was made a saint. When he died, he was made a saint. But at the time he was alive, he was a father. He was a priest.
Remember the thoughts. Remember the thought, right? We already read that this is a pagan. It has a pagan roots. It's a paganistic ritual called Lupercal, which is a festival, right? So now, when you bring in Saint Valentine and all of that, that is still paganistic in its nature.
No, I'm not saying. I'm not saying that it's not pagan.
Right. Okay. So it is pagan. Yeah.
I'm saying that even Catholicism itself, even though it's Christian, is steeped in pagan tradition. So everything is pagan.
I'm going to read it in the Bible now. Give me that. Job 14:4.
This is the book of Job, chapter 14 and verse 4. Who can bring a clean thing out of an unclean.
So we've established that the ritual behind Valentine's Day is definitely pagan, which is not clean, according to God's eyes. The question that's been asked is, who can bring a clean thing, something that is holy, out of something that is unclean, something that is paganistic in its nature? Read.
Not one.
Not even one. It's impossible to make something that is completely filthy to make it something that is completely holy. Do you understand that?
Yeah. I totally understand all of this. God is holy. He was the same yesterday to the end forever. His standards will never change and cannot be manipulated or like diluted just because we are human and we want to fine-tune it to our life today. His standards have always been one and the same, and it's never going to change. So no matter what we do here, how we choose to live, this is God, and until you get to this level, whatever you're doing down here is human, is dark, and you're open to, you know, attack darkness if you put yourself down here. So that's what I believe, and that's my stand, and that's my take on it. I don't celebrate Valentine, but I understand it. I don't judge people who do it. Yeah, so yeah, this is my take on it.
A lot of the times, this Valentine's Day affair, you know, you want to get all lovey-dovey, but at the end, it's just like spirit destroyed, you know what I'm saying? So we're going to read that in the book of 2 Timothy.
This is the book of 2 Timothy, chapter 3 and verse 1. This know also that in the last days perilous times shall come.
So the last days is talking about now. It's saying perilous times shall come, meaning bad times essentially. Read.
For men shall be lovers of their own selves.
Because when it comes to Valentine's Day, the men, they don't really love the sister. A lot of the time, they're in it for their own self. Remember you said, when it comes to the chocolates, we don't really care. When it comes to the nights out, the cinema, we don't really care. We're not really trying to watch the movie. Because we're lovers of our own self. Because we know, once we just spend a little bit of money, we know what's likely to come after. Right? Read.
Covetous, boasters.
Covetous. You want the sister, but you have no right to laying down with that sister. You want something that's not yours. Read.
Proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection.
Because a lot of the time, you don't even care about the sister. You know what I'm saying? You don't really care. As we've alluded to, read on.
Truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce.
Incontinent means no self-control. Read.
Despisers of those that are good, traitors, heedy, high-minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God.
Because a lot of the time, that's what the Valentine's Day is about. It's about the pleasures. It's about, let's go out. Let's, like you said, get up close and personal. It's about the pleasures, right? None of it is in honor of God or what love actually is, if that makes sense. Read on.
Having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. From such turn away. For of this sort are they which creep into houses and lead captive silly women.
So what happens is these brothers that really are only interested in themselves, they lay on captive silly women. The sisters, they get tricked. They think, oh, he cares about me. He's taking me out. We're going to the movies. I think he could be the one. Next thing you know, Valentine's Day is over. They've laid down and they never see them again.
I think both of them or both parties know what it is. Well, that's the way I like to keep it, man. Like transparent, man. So I hear what you're saying, but I think that also sometimes it's like a consensual thing where both parties know that it ain't gonna be a real situation afterwards.
Right. But for example, remember we were talking about the judgments, right? Say, for example, a brother, he lays down with a sister and she gets pregnant now. But he's like, hey, it was a one-night thing for me. I'm out. But guess what? She was one of the women that was taken captive. She was fooled. Right? This is the book of Hebrews, chapter 13 and verse 4. Marriage is honorable in all, and the bed undefiled. But whoremongers and adulterers God will judge.
So God said marriage is honorable. That's what we should be aiming for, marriage. Not having those jump-offs and having babies and not looking after them. Things like this doesn't help society, doesn't help us as a people. Do you understand?
At the end of the day, you know what I mean?
That's exactly how it is, man. That's exactly how it is.
The
Go on.
Brothers, like, I know we're coming to the end of it. I'm not, like, I was a Christian growing up, but religion is not my forte.
It's not your thing. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. But at the end of the day, what do you think? Because this was about Valentine's Day.
At the end of the day, I just believe there is a higher power. And if there's a higher power, there's a lower power. If there's good, there's bad. So there has to be
There has to be a balance.
there has to be a balance. So all I just believe is, as a person, you know within yourself what's right, what's good. If you got someone you're with, Valentine's, then you're with that person, innit? But if you're not, then you don't have to, innit? It's not by force.
Let's get the book of Colossians 2 in it. Because as an Israelite, there's requirements of being an Israelite. And there's things that the Most High says don't do, Valentine's Day being one of them. Things that are of the world, things that the world have created that's not biblical, we're supposed to stay ourselves from them, stay away from those things.
How can you live in the society?
I'm going to show you.
Colossians chapter 2 verse 8. Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Christ.
And that's what happened last year. You was from young up until now, your granddad has installed you. Valentine is not the thing for us. But last year, you was spoiled through philosophy and tradition of men, and you went and you partaked into it.
Holiday, to be honest. I was there for the holiday.
Holiday.
The holiday and sightseeing.
And sightseeing. Get me Romans 12 and 2. Because the question was, how are you meant to abstain and stay away from these things when we're in the society? This is where it starts. It starts with the mind. Okay? The mind is a powerful thing. Romans 12 and 2.
Romans chapter 12 verse 2. And be not conformed to this world.
See that Christmas, them birthdays, Easter. What else do you celebrate?
I celebrated my birthday this year.
So, be not what?
Be not conformed to this
The
world.
things that the world puts on the forefront, don't be conformed to it. And what you're going to actually understand, birthdays is of this world. And you conform to it every year.
But you're saying like I subject to my birthdays. I don't really ever celebrate my birthdays.
You get the presents.
Not really. I've never been one to ask for presents. From young age, I've never really... I don't know. I appreciate things differently. I don't expect presents. I don't want you to get presents. I'm more of a person that would prefer to feel rather than receive like valuables. Like I don't need materialistic things. I need love.
Love. You need love, not material. Okay. So read that again.
And be not conformed to this world.
So it starts with the mind. Okay. It starts with the mind. If for us to abstain and stay away from these things, when the society is so wicked, we have to change our mind. It says, be not conformed to this world.
And be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind.
So your mind has to transform and conform to the Bible, the book of the Israelites, because you are an Israelite, sister.
That ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God.
So it all starts with the mindset. Okay, once you understanding that has a pagan origin, okay, you have to start saying, okay, if it has a pagan origin, why am I still doing this continuously? Why am I cloaking it with love and romance? Because
I feel like this debate could go on forever, because honestly, like it's like even you could say religion in a sense, like the Christianity, you could state that could be a pagan belief, because the first slave ship was called Good Ship Jesus, and you see how much black people are so, yay, praise the Lord, and you know the Jesus saved me, and you know I don't knock that down. I don't discriminate, because I was one of those people at one point. But I feel like if you do your history or research, you kind of, you know, you see things for how it is. And I'm not, that's why I say I'm not religious. I believe in a higher power.
And guess what? I'm going to agree with you. Christianity is pagan. Okay. This Bible is not a book of Christianity. Okay. Like I said, this is the book of the Israelites. You're an Israelite. Israelite is our nationality. Okay?
So according to the Bible, the question is, how do we actually love one another?
By treating others the way you like to be treated.
Right. Exactly. That's what Christ said. Let's get that in Matthew. Let's get that in Matthew. That's exactly what Christ said. Treating others how you would like to be treated. Right? Let's read that.
Matthew 7.
Not Matthew 7. It was 22:36. 22:36.
Matthew chapter 22 and verse 36. Master, which is the great commandment in the law? Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul.
So the first thing you do is love God. Read.
And with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it.
So the second thing you must do is like unto the first, meaning they're exactly the same. Right? Read on.
Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself.
Love your neighbor as yourself, meaning like what you said, the way you want to be treated is the way you should treat someone else. Now, there's a reason why loving your neighbor and loving God are the same thing, right? Let's get 1 John chapter 5 and let's start at verse 2. Last scripture we're going to go through, right? There's a reason why it's exactly the same thing. Okay?
1 John chapter 5 and verse 2. By this we know that we love the children of God.
So this is how we actually know that we love the children of God, meaning each other, right?
When we love God.
When we love God and do what?
And keep his commandments.
So love is actually the keeping of the commandments. Because if you love the sister, you'll think, you know what? I love her, I honor her, let me get married to her, let me look after the family. Do you see what I'm saying? There's a big difference, right? But that's written in God's commandments. As we read, marriage is honorable. Read on.
Verse 3. For this is the love of God.
For this is the love of God. So now this is how we love God. Read.
That we keep his commandments.
It's the same thing. We read that in Matthew. It's the same thing. Read.
And his commandments are not grievous.
And it's not that difficult to do. It's not that hard.
So this is the book of Colossians chapter 2 and verse 8. Beware, lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit.
So now Valentine's Day is a pagan ritual. It's a pagan festival. And it's a philosophy of men, as we're going to be read on from that.
After the tradition of men.
So it's a tradition of men because it was formulated by men. It was not something that was instituted by God. Read.
After the rudiments of the world.
It's rudiments of the world. It's something that's come from this world, which is evil. Right? Read.
And not after Christ.
And Christ does not talk about Valentine's Day at all. There's nothing Christian about Valentine's Day. What do you think, my sister?
Yeah, I know this, and this is what I've said throughout. Like, God does not agree with Valentine. It's dark. This is his standard, and if he has not said something should be done, if it's not a feast that is approved by God, obviously, if it's not from God, it's from the other side. And if it's from the other side, it's paganistic. It's steeped in darkness. It's open to manipulation by the enemy, and that's what I've said, and I'm still repeating myself again. So
very good. I'm glad that you said that. And would you celebrate Valentine's Day though?
I don't. I never do. I never have. Never will. And I'm not. What?
So what feast do you celebrate? Yeah, that's good.
Well, I'm a March baby, so Easter.
You celebrate Easter?
Like, I celebrate my birthday. I said I'm a March baby, and it happens usually in Easter. So.
The Bible does tell us feasts that we're supposed to keep as Israelites. So I'm just going to give you one feast, okay, as an Israelite from the tribe of Benjamin, because you said you're Jamaican, right? That you should be keeping. Get me Exodus 20, verse 8. All right? Read that for you.
Exodus chapter 20, verse 8. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work.
So this is one of the feasts that the Most High gave us to keep. The Sabbath, you heard of that?
Of course.
So what do you know about the Sabbath?
The Sabbath day is the day you praise the God, Lord.
You're trying to sound American.
No, I'm not American. No, I'm not trying to sound American. This is like, every black person or ethnic minority that's Christian, they always celebrate the Sabbath day, unless you're a Seventh Day. Was it a Saturday Advent? I don't know. there's so many different types of Christians, but we're not Christians, we're Israelites, apparently.
We are.
We are Israelites. But yeah, the Sabbath day is the day you relax and praise God.
Right. So yeah, that is one of the feasts that the Bible tells us to keep as Israelites. So you already know that Valentine's Day is a no-go. Okay. Now you know the actual deeper mystery behind it, where it actually came from. Okay. Seeing that you did go to Rome and do that, it was weird that you'd never done it before, but you did it last year in that particular place, knowing the origin now. What are you going to do about this information that you just learned?
What am I going to do? Well, spread some, because I've learned some new additional information, and yeah, continue not celebrating Valentine's Day.
And what are you going to start celebrating? Or maybe research more into?
The Sabbath day.
That's right.
So, after the things that we learned today about Valentine's Day, do you think moving forward it will be something that you'll still do?
I know the easy answer is to say no. However,
what's the truthful answer?
Brother, I think this kind of things I have to research it myself afterwards. Okay. So I don't make just a hazardous judgment like straight away. Okay. But I hear what you lot are saying there.
Yeah, we can respect that, and that's the thing. Do your own research, because when you do your research, you're gonna find the same pagan origins that you learned today.
Valentine's Day, do you understand? So that's where it comes from, and that's what we're out here to show what we're supposed to do. So hopefully you gain something from that, yeah?
Yeah, I did. I didn't know about the history specifically with the superstition and the rituals and the sacrifice. I didn't know. However, the notion of worshipping something outside of yourself alone just doesn't sit
well with you.
What's the alternative then? What would you lot recommend then as a alternative?
Let's get Purim. And we're not doing it for the sisters. We're not doing it for the women. We do it because the Lord told us to do it. We do it because the Lord requires us to do it, because there's a holiday that comes around the same time as Valentine's Day that the Lord actually commands us to keep.
Esther chapter 9, verse 26. Wherefore they call these days Purim, after the name Pur. Therefore, for all the words of this letter and all that which they had seen concerning this matter, and which had come unto them, the Jews ordained and took upon them and upon their seed and upon all such as joined themselves unto them, so as it should not fail that they would keep these 2 days according to their writing and according to their appointed time every year.
Right, and that appointed time every year, it comes around the time of February, around the time when Valentine's Day is. So there's a lot of history behind that holiday, behind that feast, but that is a feast that we're supposed to be keeping around this time instead of Valentine's Day. So that's another thing that you can go and research. Research the feast of Purim, because that's what we're supposed to be doing. With that, cuts from the street.
Hey, shalom family. So that's a wrap now from Shepherd's Bush. So today's topic that we were doing was Valentine's Day. And to be honest, a lot of the people that we spoke to, a lot of them knew it was pagan. And some actually didn't know it was pagan. But they still understood that this is not something that the Bible ever condoned. And it's not something that made any sense anyway. So it was a good thing to get that understanding out to the people.
Yeah, as you said, Soldier, a lot of people, we found out that they actually don't celebrate Valentine's Day, but it was still important that we give them, the understanding behind that. And also, a few of them also showed signs of repentance as well, for the ones who didn't think that it was pagan. They wanted to know more, which is quite good, Soldier.
Right, so just to summarize the whole matter, just for you watching online, you may think you can, keep that cloak on. Get me Job chapter 14 verse 4. Okay, cloaking it, continue to cloak it with the love and the romance. This is what the Bible says regarding Valentine's Day, which has a pagan and unclean origin. Read.
The book of Job chapter 14 verse 4. Who can bring a clean thing out of an unclean? Not one.
So Valentine's Day is an unclean thing. The Bible tells us you cannot make it clean. Okay, so with that, Israel, this is Cuts from the Streets. We say shalom.
We used to scream black power while Heron was pushed. But at the end of the day, nothing's in vain. IUIC has been given a vision. The tents of Judah has risen. Many has attempted the mission. Minor murmuring, omitting, and missing the mark. Just reading that he had the flame of fire in his eyes gave us the spark. We on Paul's mission. We out on the road, purple and gold. From Mexico, Cuba, Haiti, Ghana, Sierra Leone. 144,000 boots banging, concrete crackling. These are our men repented at heart. The scriptures is proof. IUIC, we deliver the truth.